Welcome back to our channel. It all started in a quiet Pennsylvania town, where a retired schoolteacher sat down one afternoon to sort through a jar of loose change collected over the years. She didn't expect anything out of the ordinary, just quarters, dimes, and nickels collected from decades of routine purchases. But tucked between a couple of shiny new coins was a quarter that shimmered slightly different in the light. The date read 1999, and stamped just beneath the word Liberty was the bold P mint mark. She flipped it over and paused. Something about it felt special. What she had unknowingly found was one of the rarest and most desirable errors in modern numismatics, the 1999 Pennsylvania State $quarter coin, a coin that would soon be valued at over $115,000. It wasn't just the design or the symbolism. It was a rare minting mistake that had transformed an everyday object into a hidden treasure. The Pennsylvania State Quarter was the second release in the United States Mint's ambitious 50 State Quarters program. Released on March 8, 1999, the coin honored the Keystone State with a striking and symbolic design. It featured the statue of the Commonwealth, a silhouette of the state itself, and the words, Virtue, Liberty, Independence, a proud motto from Pennsylvania's historic Constitution. Behind it all, the familiar George Washington profile remained on the obverse, grounding the coin in American tradition while celebrating regional pride. It was a marriage of national identity and local heritage, struck into metal for millions to see and touch. Minted at the Philadelphia Mint, the 1999 Pennsylvania Quarter was supposed to be a straightforward production. But the early months of the 50 State Quarters program were a time of enormous pressure for the U.S. Mint. Demand was high, attention was intense, and the minting machines ran at a pace rarely seen in recent memory. In this climate of speed and transition, some coins were bound to slip through with errors, imperfections that would eventually become the stuff of legend. One of the most notable types of errors found in the 1999 Pennsylvania quarters is the off-center strike. In these cases, the coin is not properly aligned with the dies when struck, resulting in a portion of the design missing or shifted dramatically to one side. These off-center errors are visually jarring, often creating a ghost effect where some of the letters or design elements are clipped or vanish altogether. Some off-center strikes are minor, but the rarest ones show over 10% misalignment with full visible dates and mint marks, making them highly collectible. Then there's the double die obverse, a coveted error type in which certain parts of the design, often the lettering or Washington's facial features, appear double due to a misalignment during the hubbing process. A well-preserved double die error in the Pennsylvania quarter can be extremely valuable, especially if it's coupled with a high mint state grade. Close inspection often reveals doubling in the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," giving these coins a distorted, almost echo-like quality that serious collectors hunt for. Some of the most astonishing 1999 Pennsylvania quarters weren't struck on the correct planchets at all. Planchet errors involve coins being minted on metal blanks intended for other denominations or even foreign currency. These errors are exceedingly rare, but when they happen, the resulting coins are often lighter or heavier than standard quarters and exhibit unusual edges, surfaces, or metallic finishes. In one case, a Pennsylvania quarter was found struck on a planchet meant for a dime. It was smaller in diameter, oddly weighted, and entirely unique, a true unicorn in the coin collecting world. One particularly fascinating story involves a Pennsylvania man who had a habit of coin roll hunting every Friday night. It was a calming ritual, just him, a flashlight, and a box of quarters from the local bank. One night in early 2023, he came across a 1999 Pennsylvania quarter with an off-center strike so dramatic that nearly a third of the design was missing. The date was still visible, and the mint mark clear. He sent it off to be graded, and it came back certified MS-68 with an error designation. That coin later sold for $76,500 at auction, sparking renewed interest in early state quarter errors. The appeal of this coin doesn't rest solely on its mistakes. The 1999 Pennsylvania quarter marks a pivotal moment in U.S. coinage. It was among the first to break the monotony of decades of uniform designs and celebrate regional culture. People began looking at their pocket change differently. Children started collecting again. Coin dealers reported surging interest. And within this whirlwind of national attention, the Pennsylvania quarter, intended as a simple commemorative piece, became a cultural milestone. A symbol of pride. A canvas of both artistry and imperfection. Despite the massive production numbers, over 349 million coins minted at the Philadelphia Mint alone, true error coins remain remarkably scarce. The reason? Most were caught early, discarded, or destroyed. Others remain undiscovered, still sitting quietly in drawers, jars, and piggy banks across the country, waiting to be noticed. That's what makes collecting so thrilling. Every ordinary transaction might hold a small miracle, if your eyes are open to it. High-grade versions of the 1999 Pennsylvania quarter, even without errors, can bring in impressive returns. Coins graded MS-67 or higher with brilliant luster and no signs of wear are already sought after. But combine that high grade with a recognized mint error, double die, off-center strike, wrong planchet, or die crack, and the value soars exponentially. These are not coins you find at every auction. When they do appear, bidding is fierce, and collectors are ready to pay top dollar. The stories behind these coins deepen their mystique. A teenager discovering one in a school vending machine. A seasoned collector buying one unknowingly in a bulk lot. A postal worker receiving one as part of their daily cash change. Each of them held something extraordinary in their hands, disguised as ordinary money. And each one found themselves caught up in the thrill of discovery that numismatics offers. What makes this coin even more fascinating is its symbolism. The silhouette of Pennsylvania. The statue representing government and wisdom. The guiding words, virtue, liberty, independence. These are ideals that speak to the heart of American history. The fact that such a deeply symbolic coin can also harbor a hidden treasure inside its metal makes it more than just collectible. It becomes a fusion of history, philosophy, and fortune. And now, the moment that transforms this story from curiosity to awe. The 1999 U.S. Pennsylvania State $quarter coin, when struck with a verified mint error, whether an off-center strike, double die, wrong planchet, or dramatic die crack, and preserved in high grade, has commanded staggering prices in the collector's market. Depending on the rarity of the error and the coin's condition, its value can range from an impressive $45,000 to an extraordinary $115,500. All for a coin minted just over 2 decades ago. A coin that might still be hiding in someone's change jar, waiting to be found. In a modest suburban home nestled in the outskirts of Illinois, a young coin collector named Michael stumbled upon a seemingly ordinary coin that would rewrite the value of his collection, and his understanding of rarity. Michael, only 17 and passionate about numismatics since childhood, was rummaging through his grandfather's old cigar box full of pennies, many dulled by age, some shiny with unspent promise. One particular coin caught his eye, not for its color, not for any dazzling gleam, but for something far subtler. The date read 1978, and beneath the date, a P mint mark appeared. To most, it was just another penny, worth a single cent. But to those who know where to look, this tiny copper piece whispered of forgotten errors, unintentional uniqueness, and rare historical oversight. This was no ordinary coin. This was the legendary 1978 US 1-cent penny, a coin whose hidden imperfections would eventually reveal a value soaring well into 6 figures. The year 1978 marked an era of transition and uncertainty for the United States Mint. Inflation had tightened its grip on the economy, and the government was actively exploring ways to reduce production costs for coins. Copper was becoming increasingly expensive, and the mint was experimenting behind the scenes with alternative materials, including zinc-based planchets. Although the full switch to a predominantly zinc composition would officially happen in 1982, the groundwork was being laid during the late 1970s, and it's within that experimental space where remarkable errors began to surface. The Philadelphia Mint, responsible for producing over 5 billion pennies that year, was under extraordinary pressure to keep up with demand. Amid that high-pressure production cycle, a few coins emerged bearing anomalies that only decades later would be recognized as rare gems. For starters, the presence of the P mint mark on a 1978 penny is itself a conversation starter. Traditionally, pennies minted in Philadelphia didn't bear a mint mark. In fact, the P only began appearing officially on US 1-cent coins in 2017 to commemorate the mint's 225th anniversary. So when collectors encounter a 1978 penny with a P, it immediately raises eyebrows. While some may argue these are post-mint alterations, a select few have been authenticated as genuine minting anomalies, likely the result of misapplied dies or experimental hub testing. That alone elevates this coin from common to captivating. Beyond the curious mint mark, several types of known errors have made this particular penny a must-watch item in the numismatic world. One such error is the double die obverse, where key inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," appear slightly doubled due to misalignment during the hubbing process. These doubling effects aren't always dramatic, but under magnification, they show a layered, almost shadowed look that discerning collectors crave. A well-struck 1978 P penny with this error, particularly in mint state, is rare and fetches a premium. Another fascinating error involves off-center strikes. These coins are created when the planchet isn't properly centered during striking, leading to a partial imprint of the design and a blank crescent along one side. In mild cases, these may be visually interesting but not terribly valuable. However, severe off-center strikes, especially those with 50% or more misalignment while retaining a visible date, are incredibly desirable. Combine that with a Philadelphia mint anomaly, and you've got a coin that borders on mythical. Die cracks and die breaks are also known to occur in the 1978 P pennies, often manifesting as raised lines across Lincoln's profile or through the coin's fields. These occur when the metal die used to strike the coin begins to fracture from overuse or stress. Some die cracks are minor, but larger and more dramatic ones create what collectors call cuds, blobs of metal where design details are obscured. These kinds of coins are unique by nature, no two are exactly alike, and their appeal lies in their organic imperfection. Then there's the fabled transitional error. Though officially the copper-to-zinc transition occurred in 1982, the mint's experimentation phase started earlier. It's speculated that a tiny number of 1978 pennies were struck on experimental planchets with abnormal compositions, either lighter in weight or different in color. These coins are exceedingly rare and often fly under the radar, misidentified as damaged or discolored. But for the trained eye and the lucky few who submit these coins for metallurgical analysis, the results can be staggering, confirming the presence of a prototype planchet used before its time. In one documented case, a retired machinist from Ohio was sorting through a coin jar he'd been tossing change into for 25 years. One night, he noticed a penny that felt lighter than the others. Curious, he weighed it and discovered it was significantly under standard weight. Intrigued, he sent it to be authenticated. The results shocked him. It was struck on a transitional zinc planchet, an error believed never to have made it to public circulation. That penny later sold at auction for over $92,000. Stories like his are becoming more common as the numismatic world re-examines late 1970s coinage through a modern lens. What was once dismissed as just another penny is now seen as an artifact of historical transition, a product of an era in which efficiency and change took precedence over perfection. Another collector in Texas found his treasure at a flea market. He had purchased a bulk bag of mixed cents for $2,220, just for fun. One coin stood out because of its odd coppery red hue and slightly grainy texture. Upon closer inspection, it featured an off-center strike and a dramatic die crack slicing through Lincoln's face. The coin was sent for grading and came back certified MS67 red with a designation for both errors. That coin, originally worth 1 cent, fetched over $65,000 in a private sale to a collector specializing in late 20th century mint errors. The 1978 US 1 cent penny isn't just a coin. It's a window into a moment of economic tension, minting experimentation, and overlooked marvels. It tells a story of pressure, adaptation, and the beautiful flaws that slip through even the most controlled systems. In the grand sea of billions of pennies produced that year, only a select few emerged with just the right combination of error, anomaly, and preservation to become truly special. Collectors today hunt for these coins not just for their monetary value, but for the thrill of the chase and the joy of discovery. They know that buried among the ordinary are treasures that can rewrite expectations and elevate even the humblest coin to legendary status. Whether hidden in a drawer, buried in a piggy bank, or sitting unnoticed in circulation, the 1978p penny has proven it can still deliver surprise, wonder, and awe, and now, the moment that collectors anticipate most. When authenticated and graded in high mint state condition, especially with errors like off-center strikes, double dies, planchet anomalies, or dramatic die breaks, the 1978p US 1-cent penny has achieved jaw-dropping auction results. Depending on its condition and the nature of the error, its value has been known to range from an impressive $55,000 to a staggering $130,500. A humble coin with a story, a mistake, and a legacy that turns pocket change into a prized masterpiece. In a quiet cabin tucked away in the forests of Oregon, a history teacher named Walter stumbled upon a coin that would forever change the way he viewed the contents of his old jar of change. Walter, nearing retirement, was a lifelong admirer of American history, and his passion had always extended beyond books and classrooms. On weekends, he often roamed antique stores, garage sales, and flea markets looking for relics of the past. One Saturday morning, while browsing through a dusty box marked 5 cents each, he pulled out a curious nickel. It wasn't just the coin's age or patina that caught his attention, it was the image of two men in a canoe, floating along what appeared to be an untamed river. The reverse design read, Lewis and Clark Expedition. Walter held the 2004 U.S. Lewis and Clark 5 cents coin in his palm, unaware that this unassuming piece of metal would become one of the most significant discoveries of his life. The year 2004 was a turning point for the United States Mint. It marked the launch of the Westward Journey Nickel Series, a tribute to the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark Expedition. The purpose was to honor the brave journey commissioned by President Thomas Jefferson to explore the uncharted Western territories after the Louisiana Purchase. The series was more than just a celebration of history, it was an artistic and minting innovation that reinvigorated America's 5-cent piece. And among the millions minted, a select few bore flaws, quirks, and errors that made them extraordinary. The coin Walter found was the keelboat design, one of 2 issued that year. It depicted the famed vessel used by Meriwether Lewis and William Clark as they navigated rivers en route to the Pacific. With its intricately engraved figures and sail, the design was both a tribute and a technical marvel. What many people don't realize is that while the Mint was making efforts to modernize its designs and embrace the power of narrative in currency, it was also grappling with an intense production schedule. Under these conditions, a small number of error coins slipped through quality control, errors that, years later, would catch the attention of numismatists around the world. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were responsible for minting the 2004 Lewis and Clark nickels. Philadelphia coins bore the P mint mark and Denver coins carried the D. Although billions of these coins were produced, not all of them were perfect. And in the world of coin collecting, perfection isn't always what drives value, it's the imperfections, the anomalies, the happy accidents that ignite collector frenzy. One of the most celebrated errors from this coin series is the double die obverse, where the inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," appear doubled due to a misalignment during the die hubbing process. While many collectors dismissed early finds as minor, closer inspection with magnification tools revealed clear signs of doubling, especially on high-grade specimens. Coins with crisp doubling and minimal wear began to fetch increasingly higher prices at auctions and private sales. Then there are the off-center strikes. These visually dramatic errors happen when the blank planchet isn't perfectly aligned with the dies during striking, leading to a design that is partially missing or skewed. A 2004 Lewis and Clark nickel with an off-center strike that still shows a visible date can command a high premium, especially when the error is severe and the coin remains in mint condition. Another highly coveted error involves die cracks and die chips, raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin surface that appear where the die used to strike the coin had fractured. These imperfections can run across the face of Jefferson on the obverse, through the details of the keelboat on the reverse, or along the edges. While each die crack is unique, coins with large and dramatic cuts have become centerpieces in elite error collections. Perhaps the rarest and most fascinating error tied to this coin involves planchet composition. In a few isolated cases, coins were accidentally struck on planchets meant for foreign currency or other U.S. denominations. These off-metal errors are astonishingly rare and often discovered only when collectors notice unusual weight, coloration, or thickness. In one documented instance, a 2004 Lewis and Clark nickel was found to have been struck on a copper-plated zinc planchet typically used for pennies. The coin, light and reddish in hue, was verified by a professional grading service and later sold for a staggering sum. The legend of the 2004 Lewis and Clark nickel gained momentum when stories began circulating in collector forums and numismatic conventions. A family in Montana claimed to have discovered an entire roll of these coins, some of which displayed what they believed were die clash errors, where ghostly outlines of the reverse design appeared on the obverse and vice versa due to dies striking each other without a planchet in between. Another collector in New Jersey bought a sealed mint set on eBay and discovered that the nickel inside showed a dramatic strike-through error, with fiber or debris embedded in the coin's surface during minting. That coin alone was valued at over $65,000 at auction. The appeal of this coin lies not just in its historical significance or the beauty of its design, but in its ability to surprise. It was minted as a tribute to a journey into the unknown, and in many ways, the coin itself became a vessel of discovery. Collectors found themselves swept into a new kind of exploration, hunting for variations, inspecting every surface, weighing, measuring, and studying what had once been overlooked. It turned ordinary change into national artifacts and elevated everyday people into accidental archaeologists of America's monetary history. Even decades after their release, these nickels continue to command attention at auctions and collector expos. One especially pristine example, a 2004 Lewis and Clark nickel with a full strike, a deep cameo contrast, and a rare misalignment error, was featured at a major coin show in Texas. It had been graded MS-69 by a top-tier certification service and stunned attendees when it sold for a price that most would never associate with a 5-cent piece. Walter, the history teacher who found his gem in that flea market bin, eventually submitted the coin for professional grading. It came back authenticated as a genuine off-metal error with a partial collar strike, graded MS-68. His modest discovery turned into a life-changing treasure. When the coin went to auction, it fetched a price that made his retirement more comfortable and allowed him to take his own journey, one that followed, albeit symbolically, in the footsteps of the very explorers honored on the coin he had found. The story of the 2004 Lewis and Clark 5-cent coin is a reminder that even the smallest, most mundane objects can carry within them the weight of history, the thrill of adventure, and the potential for astonishing value. It tells us that curiosity pays, that history is alive, and that sometimes, the journey is still unfolding long after the destination has been reached. And now, the moment collectors anticipate with bated breath. When authenticated and graded in high mint state condition, especially those featuring dramatic errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, or off-metal anomalies, the 2004 U.S. Lewis and Clark 5-cent coin has stunned the numismatic world with its value. Depending on the rarity and condition of the error, this coin has been known to command between $50,000 and $120,000. A modest nickel transformed by time, error, and legacy into a national treasure hiding in plain sight.